In a recent video, we looked at why Dooku didn't respect lightsaber duelists who relied upon 2 or more lightsabers or even double-bladed lightsabers when engaged in lightsaber combat. For Dooku, this lacked the elegance and gallantry he believed should be found in every duel, and also resulted in sloppy technique that left these duelists vulnerable to traditional lightsaber masters such as himself. But Dooku also lacked respect for another group of lightsaber duelists within the Jedi Order, who didn't necessarily promote the use of multiple lightsaber blades, but who believed that multiple lightsaber combat forms should be studied and learned by new students within the Order. In fact, not only would Dooku make these opinions publicly known, but he would put into practice a completely different standard for himself, adopting a relatively unique lightsaber combat philosophy that would make him unquestionably one of the greatest lightsaber duelists of his era. As we'll see, while it might be tempting to consider one's lightsaber mastery upon the number of combat forms they could utilize, Dooku was a strong proponent of just the opposite, believing that Jedi Padawans should reject the study of multiple combat forms, instead dedicating and focusing on one of the 7 promoted by the Order that they would then master in every way, which is what Dooku would do himself with astounding results. As seen within the Jedi Path manual, a training guide that was provided to all students undergoing Jedi training, the position of lightsaber instructor was one of the most important within the Order. The reason why was clear. Not only were lightsabers synonymous with the Order itself and a crucial component to the character of each Jedi, but every Jedi also underwent lightsaber training during their earliest time with the Order as initiates. Therefore, because they influenced entire generations of Jedi, lightsaber instructors were among the most vital members in the Jedi Order. Although the term Battle Master had been used throughout the history of the Jedi, in the aftermath of the Battle of Ruusan, roughly 1,000 years before the Clone War, Jedi Battle Masters in the post-Ruusan era took on the important task of training initiates and Padawans in the use of lightsaber combat moves and cadences for Forms 1 through 6, and then also provided information about the prohibited Form 7 to those who earned the Battle Master's trust in this area. The lightsaber instructors, who were recommended by the Battle Master and then accepted by the High Council, would then have the role of instructing the Order's students day to day in the execution of the techniques initially provided by the Battle Master, helping to reinforce the general lightsaber philosophy of the Order. Only it's here where Dooku would explicitly disagree with the ways of the Battle Masters of his era and those who preceded him. As seen within the Jedi Path manual, Dooku was adamant that in teaching the Order's initiates and Padawans all 6 of the recognized lightsaber combat forms, and even the 7th in some cases, was just too much for these students. Dooku believed that this method was far too overwhelming, and expecting them to learn every combat form was taking on too much. Dooku also rejected the advice of the renowned Jedi Battle Master Scarch Vonk that Jedi who reached the rank of Knight may want to develop a hybrid style that drew upon multiple forms, which of course would mean these Knights would need to devote time to studying and practicing multiple combat forms. And Dooku explained exactly why he was so hostile to this advice from the Battle Masters. In attempting to learn multiple combat forms, these Jedi would become what Dooku referred to as a dabbler in all but master of none. Instead, Dooku saw it best that each student should find the lightsaber combat form that they saw as the most advantageous and then devote themselves entirely to that single form. Dooku was so confident in this method of lightsaber instruction, not only did he adopt it himself, but he was certain a Jedi who devoted themselves to studying a single form could likely best a battle master themselves. While many would view the Battle Masters as the best lightsaber duelists within the Order due to their being proficient in every combat form, Dooku had the opposite opinion. This was a weakness for the Battle Masters and the students within the Order who followed their advice, as it resulted, at least in most cases, there being a master of none of the forms. For this reason, Dooku chose not to become a dabbler in all, refusing the advice of the Battle Masters and the Jedi Path to learn multiple forms, and dedicating himself to only mastering Form 2. But I believe the Legends novel Labyrinth of Evil also includes another significant reason for why Dooku refused to learn multiple lightsaber combat forms. Dooku knew that Grievous's knowledge of all 7 classic forms of lightsaber dueling recognized by the Jedi Order made him lethal and devastating in battle. But he also knew it didn't make Grievous invincible. Dooku's critique of Grievous here is different than that aimed at the Battle Masters within the Jedi Path. For Dooku, there was a significant drawback in dedicating oneself to finding reassurance in their knowledge of strictly the combat forms. While a lightsaber duelist could memorize all of the openings, combat moves, counter moves, and cadences of the different forms, it didn't mean that they were a master lightsaber duelist. Dooku found that a serious failing of trained duelists was seen in their belief that victory was found simply within their commitment to form, often forgetting that traditional structures and strategies could often be confused by unpredictability. Therefore, Dooku had long wanted to ensure that he wasn't merely a student of combat forms, as they only had so much value to him in a real duel, recognizing that the unforeseen and unpredictability were just as important within his arsenal as a combat artist. In this way then, Dooku would rely upon his mastery of his chosen combat form and then allow his own creativity to shine through. It's also necessary to point out that Dooku benefited tremendously from his stubborn adherence to Form 2, and his mastery of this and only this combat form, when Form 2 was rejected by almost everyone else within the Jedi Order. In dedicating himself to becoming the master of Form 2, Dooku was the beneficiary of a combat form that was best in direct lightsaber to lightsaber combat. Dooku's mastery of the precision and balance of Form 2 meant that there wasn't much he needed to incorporate from the other forms. As Dooku wrote himself in the Jedi Path, hops and cartwheels that were the definition of Form 4, for example, were unneeded tricks, as his mastery of Form 2 meant he had every tool he needed to provide a swift demonstration of his expertise. Of course, Dooku would do everything he could within the confines of Form 2 to give himself the greatest advantage, such as adopting a curved tilt lightsaber to provide greater balance for more precise handling, and then looking into the techniques of Dun Mok to break his opponent's morale through words and better win the psychological component to lightsaber combat. But nevertheless, Dooku's refusal to learn more than one lightsaber combat form was another reason that made him such a unique and skillful lightsaber duelist. It wasn't only that Dooku dedicated himself to a combat form that was all but abandoned during his era, as it was viewed as obsolete with the believed eradication of the Sith, or that he despised those who used more than one lightsaber or double-bladed lightsabers. Despite the popular judgment of the Jedi Order's Battlemasters, widely considered to be the Order's best lightsaber duelists, Dooku rejected their belief that all students should be trained in every classic form of lightsaber dueling, and ultimately refused to learn more than his favored Makashi form when he chose his path to becoming one of the greatest lightsaber duelists of his era. So there we have it, why Dooku refused to learn more than one lightsaber combat form. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for sometimes necessary hops and cartwheels.